Hey there, welcome back to Snowpal's Software Development and Architecture podcast. This is podcast number 6 in this Salesforce series. In the last one, we looked at the data graph, Anypoint data graph. Uh, so if you haven't watched that one or the ones before, I highly recommend you do so in that order. I mean, you could skip and watch them in any order. I think you might be okay for the most part, but to get the complete value out of this series, I would definitely recommend that you go through in sequence. So without further ado, let's get started here. Let me share my entire screen. Okay. Yep. Let's actually. Okay, so we're gonna pick up from where we left off. We looked at data graph in the last one just to jog your memory, even if you have seen it. We added a couple of, I think, an API with a couple of endpoints, looked at what the value add the data graph brought to the table. So that was in podcast number 5 in this series. Now this is number 6. Let's look at what's next here and the Anypoint platform. We're like halfway through. At least we've gone through like 4 or 5 items so far. So let's go to API Manager. Let's look at what that is. And if you haven't watched the other ones, I'm going to spend 30 seconds telling you what the format I'm following is. I'm just, again, jumping on the call, hitting record in the interest of exploring these products to see what value they can add to solving our problems. I haven't used any of them in the past, and I don't even know how they work till I actually get on this call to doing this recording and the podcast. If you've seen the previous ones, you know what I mean. But if you haven't, just a disclaimer, if you will. So I'm not an expert in anything in any aspect of what I do. To be honest, always a learner. But in particular, when we talk about this, I don't even know what these products are. I actually see their names for the very first time after I hit record. So hopefully, enjoy this kind of learning where we learn together. If you do, let's chug along here. Okay, so API Manager. Let's see. Since we created an API in the previous podcast, I'm pretty certain. Let's see if it pulls up those APIs, right? So what is an API manager? I'm just going to go with the standard description of it. Let's go look up API manager. Let's see. What does an API manager do from Google Cloud? API management is the process of developing, designing, monitoring, testing, securing, and analyzing APIs for organizations. Snowpal has like 8 different APIs with thousands of endpoints that we publish and that we've published. You could use as your backend, so you don't have to spend time building a backend infrastructure. Uh, so that's just what we do. One of the many things we do at Snowpal. So API management includes all of those terms, the adjectives that are the verbs, the nouns, I should say, right? Uh, I guess verbs. You know what? It doesn't matter. So you build these APIs, you design them, you develop them, you monitor them, you test them, you secure them, and you analyze them. And I probably could add a few more words here, right? Essentially everything that's API centric, really. So let's look at what runtime. Okay, there are 3 different runtimes. It looks like Flex Gateway is new. It says ultra-fast API gateway designed to manage and secure APIs running anywhere. Mule API gateway embedded in the Mule runtime connects directly to an existing Mule app. I think in the previous podcast, we created a very basic Mule app, if memory serves me right, or deploy a new proxy app. Or the third one is Service Mesh, managing Kubernetes-based non-Mule microservices with Anypoint Service Mesh. So Kubernetes, we understand, non-Mule microservices is all of our microservices at Snowpal are non-Mule microservices. So we would, I believe, fit in that category. And it says Anypoint Service Mesh. So let's look at Anypoint Service Mesh. It says Anypoint Service Mesh Anypoint Service Mesh enables you to extend your microservices network by including your non-MuleSoft applications into the Anypoint platform sphere. So essentially, looks like prior to this, maybe you could not include your non-MuleSoft applications. Let's look at this diagram, right? I guess I can't make the diagram. Open image, new tab. Okay, that's big enough. It's too big, maybe. Okay, this is from docs.mulesoft.com. Hopefully, let me make sure I'm recording. Yes, I am. Okay, internal and external APIs, MuleSoft applications, Kubernetes. Let's look at this for a second. There's a bunch of Mule apps here. Cloud Hub, Runtime Fabric. Let's see, Kubernetes cluster, Mule adapter, Service A, Service B, sidecar proxy. Again, take it with a grain of salt. Again, I'm seeing all of this for the first time, these diagrams. This tells me that based on the description we read earlier, you can use Mule applications and non-Mule applications. So is that what it is? What is Istio? Istio. So Istio is a service mesh, a modernized service networking. Oh, it's Google Cloud. Okay. A modernized service networking layer that provides a transparent and language independent way to flexibly and easily automate application network functions. It's a popular solution for managing the different microservices that make up a cloud native application. Um, so maybe this is something we can check out another day, right? I mean, I'm going to go through an exercise of going through a lot of these. Because folks have questions about what a lot of these items are, and not traditional courses, but just learning as we go. Uh, uh, so we will look at all of these slowly but surely. So this talks about uh, in the context of, so the way I'm reading this is there's a bunch of Mule applications and non-Mule microservices. Maybe service A and service B are non-Mule microservices. Is the way I'm reading this. Sidecar proxy. What is that? Oh, again, it's specific to Sidecar describes the configuration of the sidecar proxy that mediates inbound and outbound communication to the load. Oh, hang on. So this is observability, traffic management, security. So STO extends Kubernetes to establish a programmable application-aware network using a powerful envoy service proxy. So perhaps, let's see. We're going to have to try all of these out. We saw this in the context of Google Cloud. I want to see. Okay, it's an open source service mesh. Got it. Okay. So I guess we could check this out at a different point of time. So it looks like it extends Kubernetes. So maybe we can, let's look at this diagram here. Service A, service B, there's a control plane. Using the powerful envoy service proxy, working with both Kubernetes and traditional workloads, Istio brings standard universal traffic management, telemetry, and security to complex deployments. Okay, so much for theory. I know what a control plane is. Those are reasonably standard terminologies used particularly in the context of APIs and gateways and hubs, etc. This does support a few different related items is what it looks like to me, but it's something worth checking out. I've never heard of that one, so it's good to know. Okay, so back to what we were going to be looking at here. Yep, the Anypoint Service Mesh. That's the diagram we were looking at. And let's look at one more diagram here. The first one, the way I read this is Mule applications, non-Mule applications. You can have both those in, support for internal and external APIs. Now here it says runtime plane Kubernetes cluster. There's a microservice, there's a Mule adapter, and then there is an Anypoint platform here. The service user and the rest of the items here. Now, let's read this because I couldn't tell much from just the diagram itself. One is, this is a little bit of, it's not a digression actually, it is related to what we're going to be looking at. So I think it's worth these extra minutes. And I think a lot of these podcast sessions, it's a slower start because again, I'm looking at it literally for the first time, after I've clicked record. The client, which might be another microservice sends a request to the service. Okay, so let's say it's some microservice. Envoy captures the request and redirects it to the MuleSoft adapter using the envoy filter. The adapter then is envoy a MuleSoft terminology. Trying to see where this terminology comes from. Let's see, envoy. Yep, it could probably be, I don't know, related to, it's maybe proprietary language to this Anypoint Service Mesh, maybe. Okay, it says captures the request and redirects it to the MuleSoft adapter using the envoy filter. The adapter then performs policy checks and verifications. When no policy violations encountered, the request is routed to the microservice. Okay. Envoy captures the request and redirects it to the adapter. Redirects it to the adapter using the envoy filter. When no policy violations are encountered, the request is then routed to the microservice here. The microservice runs the service logic, whatever it needs to do, the business end of what you're trying to do, and sends a request response back to the client. Periodically, the adapter communicates with Anypoint platform asynchronously to get to the latest policies and contracts. So I guess the communication between Mule adapter and the Anypoint platform is asynchronous, and it says it's periodical to get the latest policies and contracts. And it says periodically the adapter returns the API analytics information to the Anypoint platform. So I guess it's bi-directional because this one says it communicates with the platform. The adapter communicates with this platform every so often to get the latest policies and contracts. Maybe it's that this dotted arrow. It also the adapter returns the analytics information to the platform, so it's I guess going in this direction. And this is super theory because again I'm just looking at this and I'm trying to explain based on what I'm seeing here. Okay, I think we can just close. No, I should close that one. Let's go back here. Okay, so there's 3 runtimes. Clearly, we'll have to try each one separately to tell, but it looks like if you wanted to use the APIs running, this Flex Gateway is also APIs running anywhere. This also has support for non-Mule based microservices. So, again, unless we tried, theory only goes so far. And at Snowpal, to be honest with you, we rely very little, if at all, on theory. The most theory I've discussed or thought about is literally when I've recorded these podcasts, right? Otherwise, we just try to go play with it, try to hit, whether it's scripting, coding, right, configuration, metadata, or trying these things out, click through interfaces. We try to get it done, get some version of it up and running, the simplest hello world version, so we can digest what these differences are. Like you can read all the theory you want, but to tell the real difference, at design time and runtime and your end user experience as a developer, the differences between the Flex Gateway and the Mule Gateway and the Service Mesh would be only when you actually play with it. Okay, so no gateways available. Let's add. Okay, select and let's see how much progress we can make, right? Because so far we've done all right. We've actually been pretty reasonably hands-on in those 1 hour sessions. As we go, a lot of these maybe we need other dependencies, and we'll have to see how hands-on we can actually get. But we're gonna try. Doesn't hurt to try. Okay, selecting your OS, the Linux. Okay, and then this is Docker and Podman. What is Podman versus Docker? We know how Podman different broker that does not require a separate daemon to run containers, making it more lightweight and secure. Okay. See, there's learning all the time in this beautiful world of software. Podman is a container development management tool made available, blah, blah, blah. One of Podman's assumptions is the Docker compatible API. The biggest difference in Docker and Podman is architecture. Docker, what are these words? Euro. Okay. Is that a different language? I'm not sure. Okay. Let's see. It says Docker is based on client server architecture, while the daemon process has been completely abandoned in Podman. When working with Docker, as we know, we use the Docker CLI, which communicates with the Docker's daemon in the background. The main logic is the daemon, blah, blah, blah. Podman supports Docker files but lacks Docker Compose functionality. Okay. Just distracted here because I've not used Podman. I didn't even know there was such a thing. Um, can use popular container registries, like it does use Docker Hub. Okay, something worth checking out. I don't know what Podman is. Oops, did I? Let me go back here. Okay, select your OS or environment and then Kubernetes. OpenShift. Okay. Let's say yeah, I'm not gonna pick this one. I'm probably gonna pick. Let's try this, right? Let's do this. Let me open a. Okay, let's make a directory called podcast. Oops, there's one that exists. Maybe we created. And I'm going to remove that. Okay, and then we'll say make any point. Forgot what we were looking at here, the API manager. Okay. I had another window open here. Okay. I guess I didn't need this one. Podcast, any point. Move this. I guess I can leave it here. Oh, I don't. Is Docker not running? Yeah, but I think Docker wasn't running on my Mac. Okay, now that we've done this, we pull the MuleSoft Flex Gateway, create your gateway, create a new directory called Flex Registration or similar. Let's see, I'm just going to copy the command as is. Oops. We need to, let's see, replacing gateway with your own value. Okay, let's do that. Just going to call it Snowpal API Gateway. The request image platform does not match the host platform, blah, blah, blah. Registration completed. We're written in slash. API version, configuration, spec, Anypoint. Okay, it's got created something. Um, let's see, what do we do next? Start the gateway. So here we pull the image, MuleSoft Flex Gateway, and registered a gateway. Said create a new directory called Flex Registration. Where is the name of the directory here? Registration. I don't see that name anywhere here. There's a slash registration. Okay. We registered the gateway. We do see this new file. Let's read at least the two lines here. You should, after you execute this, you should see a new Flex Gateway and Runtime Manager after clicking Flex Gateway in the left navigation. Okay. Okay. We see it here. So this new gateway has been created, the Flex Gateway. Okay. And now start the gateway. Okay. Nice. It's actually showing connected here. Well, see some errors. A fair number of errors. I believe this is going to run in the foreground. It says gateway started successfully. You can see the view gateway connected in runtime manager, and that's what we're seeing here. But there's still, I have no idea what these errors are. We don't want to worry about them. Okay, so let's see. Flex gateways. If we go here, let's refresh this. It now says connected. Okay, next. But before we go use that, let's see. This is the gateway. Logs, this replicas. Okay. Okay, what we did here is, let me go back. To add the API, we had to choose a runtime. We chose the Flex runtime, and then we picked we actually picked the container. We picked Docker, and if it's Podman, you're going to get different commands. We can try that as well. It shouldn't be terribly hard. We pulled the image, registered the gateway. Uh, it says create a new directory called Flex Registration or similar. Then register the gateway to Anypoint platform by running the following command, replacing the gateway name. Uh, yeah, I guess the output directory is called registration, even though I think this example says Flex Registration. That's why we didn't find when we try to search for it. Okay, and then we're ignoring these errors right for now. It doesn't matter. We're just trying to learn what this is. Just get acquainted with it. The idea is after you go through this, hopefully an hour later, we have some idea how the Anypoint platform's runtime manager works. So where I was at the beginning of this podcast, where I didn't know there was such a thing, like much like the previous podcast in the series of like the API and the Salesforce series, we are actually discovering as we go. The whole idea behind doing this is alongside exploring these tools and platforms and technologies and frameworks and libraries and whatnot, just to share that experience with you if you're either fresh out of college or you've done worked in other industries and you're switching careers to software, which I see a lot of people do. And if you are one of those people, welcome. You're going to have a blast building software. Or you might be doing this in your, like me, this is the only thing you do, but you may not have done this particular thing because there's a million things that are out there and we don't get our hands on all of them, right? Because it's not possible. Okay, so let's go here. It's connected. I'm going to go next. We had this one basic API. We're going to piggyback on. We had issues with the latest version yesterday. Going to ignore that till we see that. We have multiple versions. Not that there is any difference between those versions. I'm going to go with the defaults. Maybe even pick HTTP. Otherwise, I don't know if we need to worry about the certificates or create any self-signed certs and things of that nature. So I'm just going to click all of the defaults, not change anything here, keep going. Next, route label, default route 1 or something. Route rules, define how the traffic flows to upstream services. Can I just leave the defaults here as well? Define a name to for the upstream, and you can add more upstreams here if you wanted to. Okay, must be a valid URI. I'm wondering, we now want to standard these systems as we go, obviously, so I'm trying to see how can I provide I'm just going to say something dot snow. Oh, actually, you know what? Let's call it anypoint.snowpal.com. Next. Okay, it's going to route it to a non-existential server, obviously here upstream. But let's just click save and deploy. Okay, it is unregistered. It says it's API is unregistered. Deploy the API head, hit save and deploy. Contracts, policies, SLA tiers, SLA, it's service level agreement tier A, number of requests 100, time period and time unit is R. I'm just going to say 1 hour. Okay. So it's essentially to control your traffic as to how many requests you want to support in any given window of time, etc. So logs. Our APIs at Snowpal are deployed on the Amazon API gateway. That's where our systems are, all our environments. But this looks quite similar. They're all solving similar problems anyways. Okay. Now that we have done all these things, let's see, API administration. So I want to get out and come back and actually just see what we've done so far. Okay, we added the API, we created a gateway, we have it running, and then we added the API to that gateway. What else can we do here? This is the backend upstream address. Of course, we gave that, but those it doesn't exist, right? We don't have that server at this point, so it's obviously not going to work. Come here. Got it. I guess we didn't see. Nope, we've added the API before, so we have this one. View details. If you have multiple gateways, I guess you could select a different target. 8081 is in one port. Save. I'm looking for actually the URL to this gateway server. Now again, upstream, we don't have it set up, so I don't expect for it to be routed anywhere. That's understandable, but I at least want to know how to access this particular sandbox environment. It is active, sure. It's a client secret. I don't want to show that here, not that it matters, but okay, we have environment ID, the client credentials, blah, blah, blah. API administration. Where should this duplicate, export, delete. Let's go back, and there has to be a gateway URL. Before we worry about monitoring. Few APIs for this gateway. Bear with me here, and we will find out something shortly. For continuous infrastructure, add a server. Define a unique name for your server and execute this command from your server's bin directory. After the command runs, it will appear in the servers tab. I'm pretty sure it's not going to let me create this cluster without a server, but let's see. Yep, surely, right? Because there is no server added. So we need to go add the server first. AMC setup. What is this AMC setup? It's runtime manager agent. Download and install Mule. Guess we'll have to install Mule, and then we'll have this binary at that point of time. Soft. Did we install? I don't think I installed Mule. Nope, I don't think so. Anypoint. No, wait, hang on. I did install Anypoint. Did I install Anypoint Code Builder? Let's see if I go to downloads. It's Anypoint Studio. I don't. Maybe not. Let me do this because I have to enter a password and stuff. Let me stop screen share for a second. I'm just going to install Mule Standalone on Mac. Don't take me too long. Give me a second. I'm gonna. Okay, it says I should have gotten an email. Checking my email. Actually, I did get one. It says go to the download page and download Mule. Starting to download it. Okay, I think I can probably share my screen one more time. Okay, I'm sharing my desktop. Yep, there we see the AMC setup, right? Okay. Let's say we go back here. Mule Enterprise Standalone. Yep. Okay, let's see export. I think it's 440, 452. Okay, that's the only difference. 452, right? So we set the Mule home. Let's try running Mule. Did it run? Let's. Yep, I'm gonna have to. Let's see, where was that? Show and Finder. Doesn't let me run. It's. Let's see. Open with. Okay, to get past it, I right clicked and opened here. As you just saw me do that. Sometimes, it's hard to put that in words. What you're going to do to get past a problem. It's a little bit more instinctive, if you will. Okay, install Mule. Yeah, I mean, we're not interested in installing it as a service, not necessarily at this point, right? Okay. Let's assume that it's actually maybe running at this point. Maybe. Don't know. Okay. I want to copy this command that we had earlier. We didn't add it to the path, so I'm just going to go cd myself into the directory manually. Downloads. I think, what was it? MuleSoft. Standalone 4.5. Which one did we just download? Enterprise Standalone. I'm doing this because we didn't add it to the path. Okay. Okay, I want to run it from that location and it failed. Mule Agent installer. Let's see. Did we miss a bunch of steps? It says app from your server's bin directory, but maybe. Hang on, what is happening here? It says Mule is up and kicking. So let me actually kill this. Rerun it. Mule Agent installer initialization error. It looks quite similar, doesn't it, to our error? Oh, incompatible JDK is used to run AMC setup command. Okay, what is our JDK? Oh, I guess I skipped that step there. Okay, with JDK is it open JDK version? Um, or let's actually OS X install JDK latest. Install JDK. Install, download the JDK. Just give me the DMG. Let's go here. Let's download it. Actually, do they have I did the wrong one. I want to pick the DMG. This is easier. Okay, let's just. Okay, let me do this. Might ask me for. It's going to install the software. Okay, it installed it. Okay, we are. Let's see if it still complains. It does not, right? Actually went through, so we just need it to be on the latest. Okay, so we were able to get past that. Install Mule. Okay, add a server. After the command runs, it'll appear in the servers tab. Yep, we see the server, right? So we created it. We didn't have a server, we created this. Now I think we create a cluster. Well, why is the server still not showing up here? Wonder what the expectation. No applications deployed, so I click that application. App 1. So I'm trying to import the file from the exchange, but what was it? I think hello. What was our application called? Shouldn't our Let's see. Close this. Cancel it. Go here. Hello World API is our asset. Let's see what we are able to find. Did I lose that window? I'm going to close everything here. That's just too many windows open from the past. Okay. How long are we into this podcast? We're like 45 minutes in. Okay. We've made some progress, but I just want to get to where were we before? Client applications. Oh, not that one. API administration. We were in settings some time ago. API summary. Yep, the gateway here. This is the tab. We're back here. Nope. Trying to get to the service. Oh yeah, here it is. Okay, the service. Okay, let's see what this says here. Communication between any point management center and the Mule Agent is authorized by using two-way SSL. They're going to create a key store to sign it. Private key level via machine. Configuring HTTP with no proxy. Sending sign request. Configuration saved successfully. So we did run that setup, which I'm pretty sure it went through just fine. Okay, this is where we write an application to deploy. I'm just trying to give it a name, choose a file, import file from Exchange. Wondering where this should be able to pull up. That's everything from the MuleSoft organization, but what about Hello World? View in Exchange. Right, so that's what I expected. These are the ones that are in that list. If we go back here, what is the difference? This is stable. Don't think so. Let's say when I go from here, when I say go to the Exchange, application, this is the REST API, functional monitor runner. Yeah, I guess the difference is perhaps the fact that ours is not so much an application. If I picked one of these, okay, API functional monitoring. I reckon that is actually a difference. If I go here, any type, connectors, examples, REST APIs, SOAP APIs, templates. What does that one come under? I go to provided by MuleSoft. The one we were looking at here was API functional monitoring. API monitoring connector. Just trying to see which ones can actually show up there. Anypoint aggregate, any API designer, blah blah blah. Customer API. Customer data from systems like Salesforce. So there's something called the customer API. Let's try searching for. I don't think it's going to find it. I think it's fair to say that what are these? Web service consumer example. Okay, let's go with one of them. As it's not showing up because it depends on the type. Perhaps it needs an application versus an API is what I reckon. I'm going to pick an example. I'm going to hit deploy. API was successfully deployed. Let's go to the dashboard. Starting to run. Inbound, outbound performance failures. JVM infrastructure. Okay, I doubt it's going to take any longer. So let's just wait a few seconds here. Maybe while this is actually doing it. Okay, now we come back to servers. We created them. So just to recap, we created the gateway, the Flex gateway, picked that as a runtime. Then we created the server, installed Mule, updated the GDK, installed the Mule Agent on the machine for to create that server, and then we created this sample app, and now it's saying is it done? Looks like it's running. Manage application, and here's a public endpoint. Okay, I think it's actually this is up and about, is from what I can tell. Not that we know which app we created, so URL. No listener for the endpoint here, but I think we have the basic setup done. Let's go back here. Close this. So I can close that window as well. Close a number of these windows because it's confusing. Okay. Okay, starting here, we start with the sandbox. Go to API admin. Okay, we can look at some of these quickly as well in the next few minutes. Just want to make sure this is not, yeah, it's closed, almost closed on R, so we should wrap this up. So we added this URI here, and then we added the gateway and the application URI. The thing is, this URI says no listener because there is no route defined. I'm wondering, outbound, how do we okay, we can manage the replica accounts here. Properties, logging for monitoring. And then you can, I guess, let me hit stop. Okay, it's not running, so I'm just going to go back here and start it. If this is the gateway, you remember the route I was looking for earlier, this is the gateway route. Just trying to see how we can map that to the API that we had. So we had our API, contracts, policies. Thing is, we don't have any upstream URL set up, right? We just added the URL, but we don't have it set up. But before it propagates the request to actually, I think ours is what is it, like gateway dev. I think if you do, try to see if I should just do, what happens if I did. Yeah, this is back running. Yeah, no, because also we need headers and all of that kind of stuff. This is wishful thinking. This is obviously not going to be the case. How do I point it to something that's a test? I want to see where this request is routed to, because it says upstream is here. Maybe I can find a public endpoint possibly. I want to be able to hit, this is port 8081. Actually, let me change this. I'm trying to think. See what is the least we can do to get this. So we pulled up. So this is the public endpoint, right? That's clearly accessible. And now we need, when the public endpoint for the app is hit, you want that to be wired into your services essentially, right? Trying to see which service we could, because we don't have any of the service running. This is the log level service and dashboard. Your messages. Yep. So this is the endpoint I was looking for earlier, but we don't have that wiring. I'm just trying to see where, when I hit this, let's say copy link address. If I did a trace route, I want to see where this is actually being routed to. Um, Please want to print out a hello world by having this routed to essentially adding a listener, and I'm trying to see if there's a. I don't want to do monitoring. Let me get out of monitoring. Let's go back out to API manager. So we've made some progress, right? We did everything that we've done so far. Be nice to have this last piece widened because we have the hello world API. Oh, wait, hang on. Why don't I pick that URI? latest configuration. Yep, that won't be because we don't have the headers. That's completely all right. But at least now let's go try to get the I'm still not used to this user interface. So I think I'm clicking it more than I should have to. I want to get to that, the runtime, the gateway page. And then where were the servers? Replicas. Oh yeah, here are the servers. The application. Hang on. Just trying to go get the URL. I'm back in the wrong place. Applications. Okay, so we're back to this. All right, the listener. Trying to understand the mapping here. So this is the runtime target for the gateway. And then we have the implementation URI, and then in the gateway here, where did we define the so we have the default route. So I would expect what I'm expecting to see is when I hit that URI, I need to be routed here to this default route. That is what I'm expecting to see. If I see that, then I would be a happy camper. Why is this mapping not in place? Base path, consumer endpoint optional. This is me just trying something absolutely randomly because I expected this to be the actual mapping. Nope, I didn't expect for that to work, to be honest. Okay, if we can't figure this out in the next 5 minutes, I think we'll call it done. So we made a fair bit of progress. The only thing I would like to have seen is it forwarding the request that to the default route. So upstream API where the traffic will be sent to, there should always be at least one upstream. We pick that, the default route, and we expect for it to be sent. And this is our gateway. Gateway has the API. See, there's no applications deployed. I guess we can. Again, this is where we were at earlier. I'm just trying to look for a random one, but this is what we did earlier, and we had picked an application. We have this basic web service consumer application jar. App service consumer. This is the example that we had downloaded, if you remember. T-shirt service. I think we've gone through a lot of this. It looks like there's more documentation, but we just went through it literally in real time. Yep. It's going to take a lot longer than I think the way I would assume the way we did it. Okay, MuleSoft T-shirt service. Let's see. We did. What works? Method not allowed for endpoint orders. Oh, put request orders. Maybe inventory. What are the endpoints that are supported? Let's say if there's a simple one, it'll be nice to see it. Did we see that in Sublime here? That's a HTTP listener for. Oh, okay, if you see here, that says allowed methods is post for that order t-shirt path orders. HTTP listener / inventory. Inventory. Why is a GET request not working for? Of course, orders doesn't have a GET, so you get the method not allowed. It would be easier if we knew. Again, we are speculating a lot of this as to the app, the t-shirt service that we added clearly has two endpoints. There's a / inventory. Hang on, maybe list inventory, XML to JSON, set payload. What if we did a put to orders? Let's see. I mean, it doesn't hurt. We can just try to create a new sample request here. Let's see, create a new. Okay, we're gonna go to inventory. I think it's a put request, was it? I believe that's what is this page? I guess we can close this. Let's send. I think it says to send an order, send a put request to this body raw JSON. Request bodies not valid XML. Oh, content type to application should have been. Yeah, it is by default application JSON. Error consuming the operation. The request body is not valid XML. It seems like it requires an XML input. Can we change this order? Let's see, JSON to XML converter. Let's try that. We got some other. I don't know what the expectation here is, but yeah, see that it says not found, whereas for inventory, it certainly doesn't say not found, right? So I think we've gotten as far as I was actually probably even further beyond that. The only thing I'm curious is why. Um, oh wait, it is orders. Did I have it wrong? I think I said inventory. Support request to orders. It's raw JSON method not allowed for endpoint orders. See, it says get an inventory list, send a get request to inventory. We can obviously run this differently. I just want it to be, I want this to actually route the request to, let's see, if I pick something else, no listener for endpoint. The fact that we do not get the no listener for endpoint actually tells me that the routing is happening, right? Otherwise, you'd have seen the error that we saw previously. Now, if I stop this gate, let's say we stop this. Yeah, we get a 404 not found. And now, let's say we go ahead and start this. Okay, I guess it's still starting. Okay. Get a 502 bad gateway because it's still in the process of getting started. And once it actually says status running, I'm pretty sure we're going to get the 500, which is, we're not trying to get this working in that sense. I just want to prove that the gateway is established and it's doing the routing to the server. Okay, let that happen. And this application. All of this UI looks quite dated, doesn't it? Okay. I used to complain about the AWS user interface when you don't use the AWS console, when you actually don't use the command line. But you know, this is no better. Okay, AWS is much better, to be honest. The experience of doing this. So, someone told me to set up the gateways. I mean, of course, the UI alone is not necessarily the determining factor, but it surely is one of those. Okay, now it's running. We shouldn't see a 502 anymore. Yep, we see a 500, right? So it is being routed. I mean, that's I'm quite certain about it. Let's see, where did we set up this route? Let's go back to, was it Flex Gateways? Back here, API summary. Yep, this is where we try to point it to greeting. This upstream. Fine. You're trying to send the request here, and it's going to be a 500 because this upstream doesn't have those endpoints really. So I'm trying to think if I did greeting one, does it? Yeah, no endpoint for that. Because the default should be, let's see if I copied this. I'm trying to wrap my head around because when we added the gateway, just to recap, we added this application file and that's where it's being routed to, and we verified that, right? The inventories and orders and whatnot. You read through documentation, see why that actually is not returning that inventory, but that's what it's doing. But here we still, on this API, on this gateway, we added a singular API, and we pointed this upstream to this mock service. And then we didn't do anything. We just picked the defaults, trying to see when this would actually come into play. Because this runtime target is this gateway. And if you go to the server, oh, I think it's a little bit of, it's still not used to the user interface. Okay. Goes upstream. See, this is why it's saying this proxy is currently running on the gateway, which will implement the policies from client to our gateway, and it's sending it to, that's what I expected it to send to this upstream. But something about this path, because this is the API and we have the gateway, and this API has upstream set to the mock service, and the gateway needs to route the request to this API, which is how we have it here. Replica ID. Can I get more details about this? Because view logs in Anypoint monitoring. Yep, all of our requests. These are the requests. So the requests are obviously coming through to our dashboard. Yeah, I'll get out of this monitoring here. SLA tiers. Rate limiting and other policies that if you want to set, right? There's, typically things you would expect off of API gateway. There's plentiful other gateways that I personally, even if you do not use AWS and you want to use a layer on top of that, there's other gateways that are that look a lot more current than this. Ones I've actually used a little bit more. Okay, we come here. I'm trying to go back to where that page was. Sorry, the gateway. come here a million times because this page is not clickable. Keep forgetting that. Okay, the service is here. Go into the server. Applications running on this, none. That's the part I'm a little bit confused about. It's called T-shirt or something. No, let me think. I forgot what the. Oh boy, what was the. I'm trying to think what we added earlier. I thought I typed a character and picked one. It was pretty random. Actually, let's look at this T-shirts. Web service consumer, maybe it's W. Yep, this one here. Okay, pick this one. Okay, I chose the file. What now? Try and look for a deploy. You must supply a valid name. Oh, app. Let me call it app2. Let's deploy this. This is what we did earlier. Yeah, I mean, we added a second one. Doesn't make any difference. I know why. When we went to the API, it did not show the first one. So now we just have multiple applications on this runtime manager. That doesn't prove anything more than what we saw earlier. So we have a single gateway. We've added, one server, and then we have two applications which essentially are one and the same. They are essentially the same app. Yeah. So this is app one USA E2, app two. Okay, two public endpoints. Both of them have started here. Okay, let me copy that address. Don't expect to see any difference. Yep. But I think it should suffice to say that when I change the endpoint, it says no listener, which means there is a listener. It is being routed. Just need to know what that runtime error is all about. But we have to, let's see, if we go to the mont logs, okay, we're seeing something here. Response, what's using Apache CXF. I used this a long time ago. I didn't even know they were still around. Oh wow, it's still, I used this a while ago. Okay, interesting. It's still open source services framework. Okay. Interceptor is unwinding now. Response was unexpected text HTML content. Incoming portion not allowed. I want to make sure that this is the 2 minutes ago. A few seconds ago, yeah. Okay, so I had to refresh it manually. That's not good. Okay, list inventory. Call the web, excuse me, using SOAP UI. I was presumptuous in thinking this was oh, you know what? Web service consumer. Yeah, Vesdal. Hmm. Da, da, da. It's yeah, it's a SOAP request. No wonder, right? Okay, so that explains it. We need to make this request a little bit differently than we are possibly doing it. Let's see, is it? Let's download a SOAP. SOAP client. It's been a long time. I haven't used SOAP in forever. Trying to see, certainly not with Postman. What do I? We need to see here in the body. We need to do this quite differently, right? We need to make this. It's easier that you have a basic understanding of Mule Flow SOAP as web service paradigm and the notion of Vesdal. I haven't used Vesdals in forever. Um, yeah, we need to make this a SOAP request. That is the problem. Oh, is there an example now that we've gotten so close? I'm curious now. Let me think quickly here. How can we do this? So this is actually sent as a SOAP because we need the Vesdal URLs as well. Do they actually provide? Yeah, you must be familiar with SOAPs and Vesdals. Next step, configure the connector using Anypoint Studio. Web service consumer, blah, 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 and Mule palette. We had seen this in the previous, Anypoint Studio. Oh, I know what happened there. Anypoint Studio cannot be opened. Hmm. Um, that's no good. Okay. Okay, I'm not gonna add it back there, but I guess if you had that studio, you'll have to point to this WSDL. See, they have this example here. Uh, it has the WSDL location, and then you have to go through consuming a SOAP request essentially, right? So you're gonna have to do it quite differently from how we are doing it here. But the fact that at least we confirmed that it was able to hit it and it was doing the routing. So I think it's fine to leave it here. The idea behind again these podcasts is to get our feet wet, or is it get our feet wet and hands dirty, right? I sometimes say it the other way around. Um, so I think that's exactly what we've done. We've been able to go through, and we now understand after this hour a little bit more about the Anypoint API manager, the gateway, the server. We installed the agent, got Mule running. We were able to make the request, pointing it to actually a service like a t-shirt service that MuleSoft provides, except that we're not making it as a SOAP request, right? Uh, my bad. The fact that when I saw this, I should have realized that we need this WSDL and go the SOAP route. But at least we spotted those two endpoints here, the orders and the inventory. And then if you have a SOAP client, like is it a Smart Bear or one of those things, and then you have the WSDL, you should be able to make the request to this gateway, which forwards it to the web service that we wired that into. I think that was useful enough, right? Gives us some insights. We looked at logging. We didn't set up any policies or make it any complicated, but at least we added the SLA tiers. You can say how many, if you go edit this, how many requests, what kind of throttling you want to be able to do rate quotas, and set up all of those this typical API things that you would do. Um, that's what it is for the API manager. What the next one be? I guess API governance. I think we are well into the 1 hour mark. So why don't we? I'd say. I mean, oh, we are an hour and a half in. So I'm gonna have to most likely split this into multiple podcasts because I'm gonna run into size issues, I think. So why don't we just keep going with this API governance? Let's see this quickly, right? API governance is you're establishing rules around. Let me just read it out. I'm sure there's a better way to refers to the process and controls implement to manage, monitor, and maintain these APIs. Who can access it? When can they access it? How? Everything that revolves around the governance of APIs uh, falls under this category. So let's say they have a bunch of rule sets. Let's look at some of them. Content. We looked at data graph yesterday. API authentication. Is that it for their default rule sets? Okay. This is API rule set was 30 best practices. Okay, let's go pick that one up. Click next. REST API, sure. Lifecycle development stable. Okay, next. Okay, I'm just gonna keep the defaults. Profile name, default. Okay, new profile created, governance status. See, it already says that, the validity of the APIs, it says 8 violations. Like if you go to Swagger and other places, you can open API specs, you can tell, what is right and right. It gives you these errors. So these are the violations of our definition. So you'll have to go update the RAML file, which is what we had used for the Hello World API. and fix these items. So what are some of the errors? Oh, field today's greeting should be camel case, right? Why don't we actually try this? You know what I mean? Let's actually go to our design center. Hello World API. Okay, what is it it's complaining about? It says today's greeting should be camel case, right? So today's greeting, let's change today's greeting. Okay, we have this thing issue with the bug with it not saying. Okay, I think. Okay, now that we've done that, oh, I know why it comes back to this. Oh, an asset already exists with the version. I guess we have to do a new version. Then once it does, depends on which API. Open an exchange, greeting, get. No, it's still the old one. Maybe it's still publishing it. Oh, it says published. Manage versions. So clearly this is not the most recent version, right? Because it's still today's greeting. So, oh no, we saw this issue earlier. This published 21 hours ago. Best practices. There's one or more failed rule sets. Still today's greeting. Manage versions. Yeah, I don't want to add it. I was just trying to. So we made the change to the existing version, right? And then we published that version, except where is this coming? Let's go to assets list. I'm trying to think what we had done to. That's publishing a new asset. We have to go back to the previous podcast. I forget what we. Okay, v1.1. That's the same one. In API Designer, we updated it. So this greeting actually uses point 0.4. Okay, there we go. Now we see today's greeting. Okay, let's see. Okay, why am I not seeing the default file? Today's greeting should use camel case tomorrow, so the violation is still 8, which means sadly this is not the most recent version. When I go to open an exchange and I go to greeting, I have a feeling I'm going to see the most. No, it's not. So this is what's the difference. Thought we saw the. Oh wait, hang on. That's one. That's the previous version. Manage versions. Yeah, these version numbers, I mentioned it in the last podcast as well. Okay, they are not particularly intuitive. Okay, we need to now, we go to API governance, governed APIs. So this API is not the correct version, as we can tell. So we can do one of two things. How can I go? Don't know why this is not even showing the. Oh, hang on. Okay, now I go here. Yep. So that's the version we are using over there. But then when we go to the API manager here, where does this tie into the, let's go to the design center. So this has the most recent one. And then when we say publish, there's a few too many version numbers there that are not super intuitive, at least to me. Yeah. Oh, assets with version show API version 1.1. Feature the API version, you need to increase the major asset version. You know what? I don't care. Okay. So UI is quite bad. It was hard to even tell that there was an error actually. Yeah. Okay, now it's published. Okay, now it seems it's one violation lesser. You see, it doesn't pick up that today's greeting violation. So this is what governance has a number of things. One is it's actually telling you if you're confirming with the basic tenets of APIs, but it goes beyond that. Here we saw 8 violations and now we are seeing 7, and then they have provided default governance, and maybe you have a way to upload something new as well, I reckon. Like what if I didn't want any of these? Maybe I have a way to add a new rule set, possibly. Maybe you go someplace else and add the rule set, and then you come back and have more definitions, right? So that's everything about governance. It's very important when you're publishing these APIs. So that's again, I think I don't want to spend more time there. I think we got the idea. Let's see, let's go to runtime. Well, we've seen runtimes. We have multiple runtimes. We saw servers, applications, gateways, alerts. I'm sure we can set up alerts. Alert name, alert one, or sev, alert sev one. It's just an info. We choose an application type. Guess cloud apps. Deployment failed. It's critical. Blah, blah, blah. Why does it not let me? right? So I've created the alert, and something doesn't happen, you can create those categories. So this is where I guess it's low code ish or no code in this case, right? You're just going through, a runtime design setup and going through the actions. I have to believe there has to be a code based mechanism to doing the same things, because you're not going to do it using user interfaces when you're actually in production. I don't. I'm pretty sure they should have support. I don't know how or how the wiring works here. Um, okay, virtual private clouds. If you need private spaces, it's a dedicated deployment target with its own network and whatnot. Private space. Then you can create these networks. Yep. Okay, I'm not going to go through these things here. These are very specific to what you need to get done. And then you have these load balancers and whatnot. Okay, this is configuration. Yes, you need to do this, but no, I'm not going to go through it here, because it just, if you've done this in one system, you just need to figure out how the wiring and the mapping works on another system. And it's less code, more configuration, really. And it's an area where we spend time, get it done, move on. It's not something that's close to our heart in terms of wanting to do it. So it's not the most exciting thing for me personally. So I'm not going to spend time showing it. But you're welcome to check this out. These are pretty standard terminologies: VPCs, private spaces, and load balancers, and things of that nature. But this is your config as somebody who's setting up these gateways. You do it. uh, these are places where you might make changes a bit more frequently than here, possibly, right? Once you create these, VPCs, and Amazon calls it the same as well, like AWS virtual private virtual cloud services is different. I was just going to say VPC, virtual private cloud. Yep. So the language is, just it's basically, you can, if you have a customer that wants to manage it in that virtual space that's dedicated to them, you'd use something like this. Um, okay, what else do we have? Governance, runtime manager, we've seen it. Visualizer. Okay. Krish view production or sandbox. Okay, it picks up all of our services that we have. Let's say we want one. Save. We're gonna click save. Looks like it's in the space of observability, but not sure. Let's see. Um, so I reckon you're gonna see runtime activity that you're monitoring. Yep, this looks a little bit like a poor person's version of Datadog. Maybe I'm wrong. It looks like that. Yeah. Or Dynatrace or one of those things, right? But this looks like it was built like the past century. Sorry. Um, yeah, that's I want to say that that's what it is. You're able to pick your services and see which ones you want to monitor, and tie all of this. So if you're an API manager as a person, then you need to be alerted. We saw alerts. You need to understand how systems work. This is a visual. I think it's giving you a visual representation of that. Uh, Maybe it is, what is it's called? What is it? Anypoint visualizer. I'm pretty sure Anypoint visualizer versus Datadog, maybe. Yeah, if it is in that space, I guess the whole platform versus Datadog. I thought there were things to the Anypoint platform that was not a comparison with Datadog. Maybe not. Datadog is expensive, but it's lovely, right? There's no question about that. It's brilliant. So if you have the money to pay for their services, I mean, I don't represent them. I just use their tools, and I actually like their tools. It's pricey, but they're pretty good, very good. They're very dev centric as well. This looks like that to me, but it's not in the same league at all. Okay, this is monitoring. Let's see, I can pick and choose what I want to monitor, and then I'm taken to the Okay, we saw all of this, right? We went through some in more detail than others. Uh, yeah, but it's basically the runtime and then access management, secrets manager, etc. This configuration. So I think I feel like we've spent enough time in the last so many sessions on Anypoint platform. Collectively, it's about like 5-6 hours. These sessions, if I put them together, maybe a session, a little bit more than a session at Snowpal is like 4 hours, half a day. Session and a half. So we started this not knowing anything about Anypoint platform. End of the day, before the end of day, well before the end of day, we would have a pretty good picture about how such a platform works, right? And that's the idea behind trying things out practically. Now you can obviously go through the documentation, go through a different process to get to where we got to each our own. But this is how we prefer to do it. It feels it just we believe it makes us more productive. This approach works for us, and that's the approach we actually take. So I think that was my apologies. It took a little bit longer because we actually did try a lot more as well. So we're at the 2 hour mark almost. Maybe a good time to call it wraps on this podcast. And then maybe we're done with the Anypoint platform as of podcast number 6. And in the next one, starting 7, we can look at some other products in this that Salesforce offers, right? And then once we exhaust Salesforce, we probably go to something else, maybe related to Salesforce or in this world of low code, no code, or do something completely different. I have a few other things I actually want to check out as well, and I'm enjoying doing this as I recording. It's even though there is nobody here, it feels like there is somebody. It's always fun when there is somebody, for sure. Yeah. Okie dokie. I think I'll end it at this point. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you had some learnings from here, from these sessions. Before I end, make sure you check out Snowpal, all of our services. You can go to sas.snowpal.com and start here. It's a good point to start looking at all our APIs and consuming them, and take some of the learnings we've had in the last few sessions and see how we can leverage our APIs to save you time, money, and effort, so you don't have to maintain, manage, build, scale or scale backend systems, and you can define your API gateway pointing to the Snowpal APIs, and then just be productive from the get-go and start focusing on your core customer problems and not worry about the back end heavy lifting and maintenance and management and development, so to speak. That's actually, I thought I was sharing my screen. I was showing sorry, let me do that. Thought I was sharing my screen, but I wasn't. I was just showing now if you go to like sas.snowpal.com, you'll be redirected to our developers portal, and you can check this out. You can look at the APIs, documentation, go to the API of interest, and then you can look at the Postman collection, import it, start developing, and then you should be good to go. With that, I'm going to end this podcast. Thanks for your patience, and talk to you soon.